So GCF sponsor this training and the equipment that we donate. In this case, we're donating vacuum-packed individual first aid kits, or IFAKs, that the rangers will be issued, and they'll take those out on patrol with them. And we have various pieces of basic life-saving equipment, such as a tourniquet, which is what we taught them to use today, in those kits. So they will be issued with those when they go on patrol, and that will give them a reasonably good capability to stop someone from bleeding to death.
Hey, gents, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
All right. I'm going to play one more video. Sorry, we had a pause there. A little bit of a freeze in the frame here. I'm going to play one last video, and then we'll get into our chat.
Roger that. These are the individual first aid kits, or IFAKs, that we're donating to the rangers here. They consist of a range of hemorrhage control items inside. There's various wound dressings. There's also wound packing gauze, which we're going to teach them to use tomorrow. Various bandages, various dressings packed inside. There's an emergency blanket, the silver foil blanket, and triangular bandages. So with that small packet of equipment there, in combination with the tourniquet that's inside here, that's used for the control of catastrophic hemorrhaging. So in combination with what's inside this kit, and if need be one of these devices, the guys have got a really good capability to stop bleeding.
All right. So we are formally live after the start of those videos. We've had a lot of technical difficulties today. My computer, my phone, Chris's phone, and probably just the combination of internet and 2020, making sure nothing's easy today. Chris, how are you reading us right now?
Loud and clear, mate.
Outstanding. Robert, you in there too?
Yeah, I hear you.
Outstanding. All right. Well, I figured we just start off with a kind of quick intro. We'll start with you, Chris. You and I crossed paths several years ago now, on a fateful day that kind of aligned the stars for all the projects to line up.
Yeah, it sure was a very fateful day, that one. I just happened to be in the same neighbourhood in South Africa that Mike was, up in the bush, and I'd been over there delivering some training and some equipment to one of our favourite groups over there, I guess you could say. And they said, "Oh, you should meet Mike." And sure enough, Mike and I did meet, and we exchanged details, and I went away, he went away, and I thought, "Oh, well, that was nice meeting this fella. I wonder if I'll ever hear from him again." And here I am, Chief Medic Instructor for the GCF APU cause.
Sorry, I had a total pause again, a freeze. So you said, I'm assuming you told him, "Oh, you should meet Mike," and then we were able to chat and catch up there.
Yeah, I did, Mike. I was saying how we were introduced by our friends at ProTrack, and it's taken off from there. And now I'm privileged and honoured to be part of the GCF team.
Okay, well, we're definitely excited to have you on board. I mean, gosh, now I would say, without looking, I'd have to say we on average trained close to 60 to 100 plus rangers and stuff every year for the last 4 years. This year excluded because of everybody got locked in for at least your schedule of training. And then
allowed out to play.
Yeah. COVID grounded us all.
Grounded.
Literally. And then Robert, I mean, we've known each other for years, and maybe you jump in and just tell how you got started.
Yeah, so I've known you, Mike, maybe since what, 8th grade, 9th grade, a long time. And
Sorry, I'm very sorry.
no, it's cool.
That long.
What's that?
Could be worse. He could have known me that long.
Yeah, it's exactly. Yeah. No, I've known you, what, 4 or 5 years now, right? No, I don't know. But yeah, so I've known Mike, and I've known the GCF for a good long time, since he started it, really. And it wasn't until I was at Cal State Fullerton getting a degree in broadcasting journalism that I really started, noticing the things that the GCF is doing, the things that Mike was doing. And my natural interest in school, when we were running the school newsroom, was environmental issues, so plastic pollution, marine biology, invasive species, things like that, and naturally took a course towards wildlife studies, pollution and saving the environment and things like that. And thankfully, one day, it was actually the day that Calvin Kipling was in town, and I had reached out to Mike for an interview, and we went down and we filmed a new segment that we aired on the newsroom, and about poaching or anti-poaching rangers and poaching and rhino conservation. And we actually had Calvin and Mike demonstrate some tracking in the field by Weston's house in a little lot. And the best part was when I aired it, everybody thought I had gone to Africa. And I had to explain to them, I was like, no, this is Oceanside, And I couldn't have gone to Africa over the weekend, kind of thing. So I guess that's how I got my foot in the door, in terms of showing the skill set, or showing my, dedication or interest in the GCF and animal conservation. And then it wasn't until shortly after graduating, I got the phone call from you asking, what I was doing around, I think it was December. And you were like, hey, you want to go to Indonesia and work with me for, I think it was 10 days, 12 days. And at first, and of course I was like, yeah, totally. But inside I'm like, huh. And, this has been my first real leap into animal conservation. And it's the best decision I ever made. And it's led to a lot of really cool adventures. And, just think if we had a touch base that first news segment at school, this probably wouldn't have been a thing, which is crazy to think.
That's I remember there was a lot of really good overlaps too at the timing, where it was Calvin was in town, and usually Calvin and I, because of the projects, we're across the world from each other usually. Parts. Rarely do we get to sit on the same project now for a long duration. And so he just happened to be in town. We were doing, I can't remember what we were working on at that point. I think we were probably working on some pre-deployment stuff. And then you were like, hey, can we do this news film setup? And I was like, yeah, that works out perfectly.
Yeah.
So I guess that lines up for, when did you and Chris meet up first in the field? What was the first?
How does he burst into
Because Mike didn't tell you what he told me about you. So I'm excited to see what Chris is, what you're gonna say.
No, I just keep laughing.
It's because
look, he's up there.
Because I'm thinking, I got the wheels turning in here. I'm excited. Chris can go first.
Well, it was a fabulous trip that we did. I think Marty and I had deployed to do our usual He Breaks and I Mend 'em show, and Robert joined us in KwaZulu-Natal, I think it was.
Yeah.
We picked up at the airport in Durban, and then we commenced our friendship with an exciting road trip.
Exciting would be putting it mildly. It was rather entertaining.
Yeah, people on the freeway crossing with wheelbarrows in front of us in the dark.
Yeah.
Quite exciting, really.
That's the craziest part, is when it's dark in Africa, it's dark in Africa. It's not such a light anywhere. And it was my first time meeting you and Marty in person at that airport. And it was basically they're going to pick you up, and and we're just going to drive 4 hours that way. So, in the dark. Yeah.
Know where to.
Nope.
That's good.
Yeah. And the best part was, I don't know what I should say. I'm not going to say it. I'm going to tell you. So
he wants to tell the story about when we had a wee stop.
How did you know? You knew. what you said? You said
Are you
that
allowed
to
to
be.
tell that story, or is it too risky?
No, that was. Yeah, can we tell the Wii story?
Well, we'll just preface this with this broadcast is probably not safe for children's ears.
Any story. So the three of us decided we had to pull over in the dark and have a bit of a relief stop. And we're all stood there next to each other in the dark, and we were discussing that if we were doing it in the US, we'd be arrested. Doing that sort of thing, and we thought, here in Africa it's fine, except you never know what's crawling through the grass out in front of us in the dark.
That's what he said. That's the first time I ever met Chris in my entire life, and until that point, you have such a demeanor that it was like, I don't know if you were serious or joking or not. So you were like, be careful at how far you go out in the bush, because there was a bunch of tall grass, and he was like, you never know what's going to jump up and bite you. So I never got out of the car. I was inside the passenger seat, just trying to go as best as I can. And it wasn't until later that he was joking. I found out he was joking.
Well, which this is probably great, because just for everybody that's tuning in again, this is going to be a lighter broadcast, talking about a lot of the stuff we've done, but kind of like a field stories, good, bad, and the ugly, because between the instructors working on multiple different projects in different countries across the world, we've had our fair share of funny. At the cost and the expense of usually one person on the crew. So, I mean, I would leverage to say, Robert, that you probably, once he said something like that, you took it to heart, because you had you'd gone to the Indo projects with me, working in Java and Sumatra, where you're like, basically like, what is that? I was like, oh, I don't touch that. I was like, you gotta assume everything here is venomous. A lot of the plants are toxic. If they're colorful, you don't know what you're allergic to. If you get stung, bit, or broken anywhere, we're days from rescue. So hopping over to Chris and Marty on the Make 'em and Break 'em tour, you probably thought that everything was out to get you.
I just assumed. I guess it transitioned over, because in Indo, like, the forest floor is crawling with little creepy crawlies, and everything bites you, and everything's like poisonous. And you saw that there was these huge hornets that like headbutted you, and when we were going on patrol. So I was just assuming, and then this is my first time with Chris and Marty, so I'm like, you got to they're seasoned GCF instructors. They know exactly what they're talking about. And Chris is like, yeah, things are gonna bite you, and be careful. So I was so scared. And then which was awesome, because it was the start of what is now a beautiful relationship. Chris and Marty are lifelong friends, and I love it. And we goof off and laugh at each other all day, every day now, which is awesome.
Sadly, my audio went for that whole story, but knowing Robert, it was hilariously fun.
Oh, nothing but good things to say about you.
Yeah, nothing but good things, Chris. That's all.
Did he tell how we got taken on a night bushwalk by, I don't know how old, Bradley, about 8 years old?
Bradley was like 8 years old.
Kid takes us on a bushwalk, and the night guided tour, spotting, I don't know, scorpions.
Scorpions,
and stuff like that,
yeah.
And then we were way out in the middle of the bush, Robert, myself, and this kid. And he goes, oh, and of course, you get the leopard in the tree just over there.
Yep. He's got one torch.
8-year-old guide, you think, confidence inspiring.
Yeah.
But he was doing, he was all right.
He was fearless. It was the most brave 8-year-old ever. I think he had like sandals, and like, in South Africa, everybody has like shorts on. So he had one black light UAV torch, and that was it. He's like, oh yeah, there's leopards there. Check out all these scorpions. And the meanwhile, I'm like, so trying to avoid all the creepy crawlies, and he said leopard. And so I got really close to Chris. I was like, hey, just.
And then to Robert's true joy, we went snake handling. That was fun.
Did he tell you? We told you that, right? There was I have a business card right here.
You tell, because I do know I do know from personal experience that I've had my fair share of surprising you with creepy crawlies that you have not always appreciated. Which I have giggled myself to death over.
Yeah. So I in terms of like animal conservation, I think like things with like legs, like 4 legs, I'm perfectly fine. That's like my safe zone. I don't really like snakes. They don't have legs, so they're in the no-no zone.
So they're outside of your circle of trust.
They're outside my circle of trust. Yeah, if it's got legs, I trust it, and if not, it's. And Chris and Marty knew this, right? And that we were staying with a gentleman called Anton Roberts, I believe his name was. And Anton is a poisonous snake expert. And he was like, hey, like, I have a garage full of poisonous snakes. And so I'm like, okay. And, through the course of our stay there, Chris and Marty had gotten really close with Anton. He's a really cool guy. And he was like, yeah, let's go handle some snakes. And so the first thing he brings out is a puff adder. Which is,
that's wrong. The first thing he brought out was the giant forest cobra.
Yeah, it was 11-foot forest cobra. It was so big, the little metal prong that you use to handle snakes was bending, and you had to use the other hand to pick up the snake with. And so he was like, "Well, have at it." And that was your instructions. He was like, "Don't avoid the head." And
he picked the Aussie first, figuring that we're used to snakes. Here, you do it. All right.
Yep. Not even a hesitation. Marty was like a kid in a candy store. He thought it was the coolest thing ever. And Chris was like, yeah, okay. And I tried to get the biggest lens I had and stay as far away as I could.
The biggest lens?
Yeah. I did not want any of it, but it was under some guy's bed. Anton had gotten a call saying that, hey, there's a viper under my bed. And went to some guy's house. It was 11-foot forest cobra, and it was just under some guy's bed. So I did not sleep for the rest of the trip. And you definitely had to check under the bed every night because of it's a really real possibility in Africa.
All right, so I do remember this story, and it leads me to our first educational break in this programming because I did catch you say poisonous snake instead of venomous snake. So we're going to have a little game with some animal-themed questions right here, just to start off the first thing. So, all right, I'm going to just do 2 questions that I find extremely easy, which I would expect both of you are going to know the first one, and I hope you know the second one. But loser has to do... Let's see. Animal sound. Best interpretation of a lost goat.
Just do your best pumpkin impersonation.
Sorry, it's doing all the breaking up thing. I didn't hear. The best interpretation of what?
A pumpkin, of your goat.
Oh, pumpkin, my goat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Ready for the questions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, first question. What is rhino horn made of?
Oh,
keratin.
Damn it! I didn't do. Was there a buzzer?
No, I mean he. Okay, hold on. We have one more question.
Okay.
How many species of rhino are there? Currently, not including subspecies.
Oh.
White, black, Javan. Quick, let me consult my mask.
That would be a good time to, dude.
5.
Oh,
I'm saying 6. Was it 6? Was it 5?
It's 5.
What? White rhino? White North? Wait, is it Sumatran? Java? I know because I don't. Greater? Yeah, great. Yeah.
Sumatran, Javan.
Yeah.
One horn.
Yeah.
Black, white rhino. And then, of course, they have their subspecies in their range habitats that are still the general population of that specific species.
Okay.
All right, so Robert, you've met his goat.
I've got
next story.
Give him a more manly 4-foot should be that he should eat some of this because I know.
No, you get that away from me. Australians are crazy. That's their breakfast. It's just bread and butter and Vegemite.
Hey, I'll take the breakfast.
Are you really?
Oh, that's so salty.
Black gold.
No.
All right, Robert. So you've met his goats. Let's start off with your best interpretation of his goats.
All right. This is my best pumpkin impersonation. Oh my god. All right, hang on. I got it. I got it. My Chris. Feed me.
This could. We're not working blue, are we? Come on.
All right. That was pretty good. So, all right. We'll hop back into the serious side of it now.
Oh,
We
my
have a
gosh.
couple more comical breaks just because, unfortunately, the topic of ranger medic stuff is really heavy, and so is the field journalism side.
Yeah.
So I've decided that we're going to kind of take it in different paces to keep the lightness and the fun of it. Because really, we just don't need it to be depressing. Unfortunately, wildlife conservation is hard enough as it gets.
Yeah.
So let's flash back to December 2019. Chris, actually, let's go back a little further than that. October 2019, we pulled in all the head GCF field instructors and Robert, as well as the core coordinators team, and everybody was at the gala. We had a great time. We were charged, amped, ready to tackle 2020. And we hit our November field deployments. And then we had a break in December. And January hits in Australia. So, Chris, maybe tell us how that goes.
I didn't get most of what you said there, sorry, Mike, but I gather you were saying after the gala, I came home and we had our local disaster. Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a wonderful time visiting you guys in California. It was a fantastic experience, and I thank you very much for that. And then, came home for the end of the year, and of course I came home to find pretty well the eastern seaboard of Australia on fire. We had been through like crippling drought for a number of years, very, very hot conditions, hot and windy conditions, and of course the place was like a tinderbox, and up it went. That event went for months. It ran, I think it was finally officially declared over in May. So it started November 26th. It started locally for me. It had started elsewhere before that. But November 26th was the first day we saw smoke near our place. And then, of course, from New Year's Day onwards, we really got it. And the fires came right to our property. In fact, came onto our property. We have a fairly large-ish bush block here in a town called Bateman's Bay, south of Sydney. And it came to us. I stayed and fought it off on 3 occasions. It had a huge impact on people, of course, and everybody's lives locally, but also a massive effect on the Australian wildlife. They say that we lost about 1 billion animals, and of course nobody's even considering insect life. I'm seeing the effects of that this season. I'll talk about that after, I suppose. So we lost a lot of animals, and of course Australian animals are, I guess, famous for things like the koala, the kangaroos and emus and all those sorts of things. We certainly have a lot of kangaroos and wallabies of varying sorts here in our local environment. Lots of them were burnt really badly. The local wildlife rescue organisation is called Wires, which many people generously supported. And they were going out and rescuing what they could and shooting the rest because everything was so badly burnt. Horrible burns to the kangaroos' feet, and tails, so obviously they couldn't get around. All the environment that they live in was destroyed, burnt black. Robert came to visit me, and he saw it. It was pretty heavy. I'm actually getting a bit emotional talking about it, to be honest. Anyway, we fought it off, survived through disaster, and in response to that, with the help of GCF and its supporters, we set up a little wildlife sanctuary. And so 3 adjoining properties, my neighbours, We all banded together with a combined area of about 100 acres that was unburnt, and of course we were taking refugee animals. So with the sponsorship that we got from GCF, which we were so grateful for, let me tell you, we were able to feed and water all these refugee animals. So we set up drinking stations, we set up feeding stations, and we set up camera traps, and we got a lot of idea of what was coming in to use the feeding and drinking stations. It was really, really good. Now the bush has grown back to, a reasonable extent, still a lot of damage. And those refugee animals have moved away. Our local population is still here, but of course they've got enough to feed. So we've stopped supplementing their food and water. There's plenty of that around for them now, and the others have all moved on back into the wider bush around us. So it was a successful mission, and I can only say thank you again to GCF, but also thank you to all those people who supported us with the Save Australia's Animals campaign.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things that was crazy at that point was, that was the beginning of, for you guys, it started a little earlier, and we had a bad fire season as well in California normally, which we get hit with, but now it's like fire season is just year round now. But I remember thinking at the beginning of 2020, like, okay, well, this will be the first time, we're moving outside of the African and Asian continents.
Yeah.
Our first Australian project, which wasn't planned, but we had really good support from our community to set up this response project, which was really cool too, because my audio cut out too. I can't remember I couldn't hear if you had mentioned that your property boundary is up against the national park area or national forest.
That's
so
correct.
Those animals that had lost food and water and habitat were coming in outside of that, and you guys became what we would normally call a buffer zone, or the sanctuary reserve space that actually was still alive and intact, and with supplemental feeding was able to bring a balance to the loss and until the natural habitat regenerated again. So that's how Robert actually turned back and ended up going down to Australia. And so, Robert, what was your mission in joining Chris for our Save Australia's Wildlife Response Plan?
Sure. Yeah. I suppose my mission would just be to help Chris, kind of bring awareness to just how bad those fires were. Being from California, we're no strangers to forest fires and the devastation that these fires can bring. But it wasn't until I got down there that the degree and just the sheer magnitude of the fires in Australia, it was nothing like I've ever seen before. And it was really interesting to go down there and just kind of be more like a sounding board with Chris, in terms of like, hey, what can we do? Where can I help? Where, I guess providing awareness to people in California, hey, listen, like this is a huge deal down here, and spread information and things like that. Chris did a fantastic job in terms of providing feeding stations and securing wildlife, and it's no joke how close the fires came to his house. He was saying that there's multiple times that he'd had to, he stayed behind when his family had left and fought the fires off, and it really, really did. And a credit to the fireys and the firefighters down there, who did such a fantastic job, even though they were so limited in sheer manpower versus the fire. But my job was to go down there, just document. Chris is one guy, so to go down there, help him with anything he needed. Provided content, media, photos, and really just help spread the message and all the good he's doing. And I'm really thankful I did. It was an interesting time. For such a serious moment in Australian history, and I'm sure in Chris's life, it was really big for Chris to, let me come down and be a part of this moment and help him in any way I can. And I like to think that I, provided some sort of help or, maybe just comfort in terms of what can this yank, I guess, do for Chris. So we made a bunch of videos, we made a bunch of photos. We did some really, really cool work with animal refugees. We did a lot of work with wires. We went to go see, baby joeys who are, slowly being recuperated and nursed back to health so they can be released. We saw wombats that were being nursed and ready to be released. We actually had a really, I thought, eventful and a very, very productive trip down in Australia. I would 100% go again. It was pretty cool. I mean, hopefully for different reasons. Maybe this time for holiday. But it was fantastic. And just the sheer work and effort that Chris put in to the Shale Hill Wildlife Foundation and just his dedication to preserving the wildlife down there is fantastic. And it was one of the highlights of my life. It was really cool.
Shame it only lasted a week, mate. Wouldn't it?
Yeah. It was wild too. Is when I had gone. It was just right before the lockdown. This was right before COVID, and I was in the Australian customs, and they would have like speakers, and they would just every so many minutes, hey, if you guys have COVID, tell somebody, or if you're not feeling very good, let somebody know. And I had left, and I had gotten back like 2 days or 3 days before the lockdown, which is pretty crazy that I just missed it. So I would still probably be in Australia if that was the case. I'd probably bugging Chris to death.
I'd be all right, mate. We'd find it's a big country and not many people live in it, mate.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he'd build my own little hut outside near Pumpkin.
Yeah, take a little humpy for you.
Yeah, for real. But no, just the sheer magnitude of wildlife that was still there even after all the forest fires, and I think a lot of it too was the camera traps that we got. Thankful through the donations was really cool. Every morning Chris and I we wake up and let's go check the camera traps, and especially the one wallaby with the little Joey it was really cool to kind of just see it and document it, and hey, this is some new life. We've got this going on. It was just really positive to see that kind of that life kind of coming back and returning to normality, I suppose. Because you hear so much about death and destruction.
The nice thing, particularly about that wallaby that had the Joey that you were mentioning, we christened the Joey Didge, short for didgeridoo, which is kind of. But Didge and his mum have gone. No sign of them. We'll never see them again. Whilst, we liked seeing Didge, as you say, we get up and look at the camera trap pictures and all that sort of stuff. The positive aspect, of course, is here's a pair of wild animals that took refuge here, benefited from what we were able to do for them in the way of food and water for a brief period, but when they no longer needed it, could return to their wild habitat. So whilst it's sad that they've gone, we don't get to see them anymore, it's a very good thing because we know that there's 2 wild animals that have gone back to their habitat to lead a natural life. So it's a really good thing. And on the upside, at the moment, we've got just bouncing around in the backyard out there, we've got a mother redneck wallaby and her little Joey at foot, as well as, Mike, you've seen the pictures of the eastern grey kangaroo that lives around here with the broken arm. And
he's still kicking?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she's around with her whole family. She's got a new Joey in her pouch, plus 2 Joeys at foot, they call it. They're still bouncing around their mum. They're not fully independent yet. And so, there's lots of, new life despite what happened. So, I guess nature is fairly resilient when it comes to natural disaster. That's not to say the things that we as humans do to the environment are quite the same, but certainly, their response to this huge natural disaster is that they're bouncing back. No pun intended about kangaroos bouncing back. Sorry.
Well, Chris, that leads me into a real easy, cheesy dad joke here. But why Chris and I are, why Robert and I are on the top 2 screens, right?
I'm sorry, dude. The it's just clicking and crackling, and I couldn't hear any of that.
Oh man. Oh well, it's okay. Terrible joke. Sorry. I don't even really want to tell it, but I was gonna say, can you hear me now?
No. I can hear.
Dang it. Well.
It's like talking to Daleks.
It's just talking to what?
To garlics?
Doctor Who. Don't you know, Doctor? Oh no, it's Pommy. You wouldn't know that, would you?
That's the one that they do.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try something real quick here, Chris.
You're back.
I'm gonna see if changing your audio does something here. There actually did do that. I accidentally removed Chris from the screen though.
That's fine.
I'm gonna bring him back into the broadcast. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back in here. Basically, sorry, Chris. Let me pull you back into the stream here. But we're getting feedback from his mic, which we can't do anything about, except the mic. There it is. Sorry, Chris. I had to reset your broadcast channel there.
So I just muted my mic, and you were still talking in electronic gobbledygook.
Dang it! I was saying,
blaming my microphone. It's you. My God.
So would headphones work like Apple headphones?
I don't know, because I'm still hearing his clatter still coming through. Sorry, everybody, for the technical difficulties. We're still
learning process.
Chris, try.
It's because kangaroos rolling in the big treadmill to make enough electricity to run the internet down here.
Try muting your mic really quick for us.
Say that again, mate. It went then.
Try muting your mic for us really quick. Oh, the clicking's completely gone. It's completely, dang it. Well, that makes things a little challenging, but I guess, Chris, you can chime in and chime out when we need to, and you can start signing. I was going to say, so in the next part of this, basically, so we all met years back. You guys have been on the projects. We all have these comical stories. But then coming full circle, I mean, so Chris, I'm going to have you come back on in just a second. The serious side of the work for the medic work is, having you out there training these rangers for frontline medical training or field first aid, abbreviated version used most of the time under the TECC, Tactical Emergency Casualty Care course. But basically stabilization, for moving people in remote locations under duress or combat situations, not always under combat, but what the field brings is, it can bring that. So preparing rangers for life-saving techniques in extremely remote, dangerous locations with minimal supplies, which are their IFAKs, their individual first aid kits. And Robert, you had obviously gone out to film the training of a couple hundred rangers for the Krav Maga courses and the medical trainings and the sponsorships that come with all of that stuff, all the gear and whatnot. So Chris, I'm going to try muting my mic for this next segment here to see if we can prevent the feedback from happening. But maybe go ahead and talk a little bit about. Can't hear me. Dang. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Almost. Just chatter. Dang it. I'll have to type this to Chris. We're having terrible issues here today.
I'm going to turn my mic back on, and I don't know if you can hear me, mate, but all I'm getting from you is crackles, clicks, and that. I got maybe 25% of what you just said in that intro there, mate. Sorry.
Oh, shoot. Dang. I'm gonna go into the studio here again and see if I can type this to you to make sure you can see it. Let's see. Sorry, guys. It's unfortunate. Technology can be so helpful. It's the biggest pain ever.
It's so like any trip to Africa too. How sometimes it's not exactly what you think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, what the heck? All right,
Yep.
so chat function. Robert, if you can see the chat function, I just sent it to you. You'll see a little red dot icon popping up there, which should allow you to see the question that I just gave for Chris. Maybe if you repeat it and give Chris the question, you guys can talk about the importance of the medical training and what our functions are with it.
I'm sorry, I can't see where you wrote it.
You go up to the comments bar,
Yeah.
or down below where it says Mike, Cam, guess, and more. There's a message board in there. Chris can see it.
Yeah, if Chris can see it, I'll just leapfrog off of him. Yeah, because I just see Sally. Hi, Sally.
And we lost Chris. All right, well, today's rodeo circus is provided by GCF. So here at my place, there's like no internet reception most of the time. Chris is pretty much the same. Robert, I think you're the only one that has stable Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Or the Wi-Fi, the rare Wi-Fi. Oh, Chris is back. He's back in.
And maybe I can hear you now.
Ah, that's a lot better.
No, I can't hear you now. Oh, dear.
We can hear you.
They're laughing, so that's good.
Yeah, it's good. It's great.
Okay. All right, I got your message there, Mike. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hear you just fine.
All right, so you asked why the medic training is important. I guess I might answer this by telling a story, if that's all right. And it's actually prior to me being part of GCF, and it's the thing that led me to become part of GCF, because as we mentioned before, Mike and I just happened to bump into each other at the time. So there was a young ranger in South Africa, a guy called Wasani, and he and his patrol group were ambushed by some poachers, and Wasani was shot in the leg. The ranger team was actually overwhelmed by the poachers. They were bound, and the poachers went off to do their evil deeds, which they did do. And upon their return, they found this kid Wasani shaking uncontrollably, lying in the dirt, bleeding. His comrades, the other rangers, of course, were bound and couldn't do anything for him. But they didn't have the equipment or even, indeed, the proper skills to do anything for him anyway. And this poor kid, Wasani, basically exsanguinated or bled to death in the dirt. The poachers even tried to keep him warm by building a fire. So, read into that what you will. But anyway, this kid died unnecessarily, and I thought, well, that's a really stupid thing. So I got my act together and headed to South Africa with a whole bunch of tactical medicine equipment and gave it to these rangers. And of course, I thought, well, I've got to give them the training as well. And so now there's a whole bunch of rangers that I trained. And on that visit, I met Mike. And consequently, since then, there's a whole even bigger bunch of rangers that have been trained by myself via the good offices of Global Conservation Force and its supporters, which we deliver life-saving equipment, but also the knowledge on how to use that life-saving equipment. And it can be quite simple, really. I mean, that kid did not have to die. But unfortunately, he did because of a lack of knowledge and a lack of equipment. So my mission is to change that as much as possible, and GCF are very kind and let me do so through their good officers. And we've made a lot of impact with rangers and the teams of rangers we visited. And I've actually received emails from guys saying, well, you know what, all that stuff you taught us when you were here a week or two ago, we used it today and we saved a life, you know. And it might not be a poaching incident. It might be a road traffic accident incident, of which there are many in South Africa, and they're terrible. So these guys, you know, put into practice what I teach them and use the equipment that GCF donates to them, and they do good. They do positive, life-saving good. And I'm very happy to be part of that mission. Yep, I've got no sound now at all.
Can you hear us though?
Yeah, now I can hear you chuckling. There you go. And Robert.
Yo.
Let me get this right. Robert always chuckles very animatedly, so I know when.
Do we really?
No.
So I can't fake a laugh. That's what you're saying. No, I don't. Shit.
You do? See, it doesn't matter if there's no sound. I know when you're laughing.
That's a good point. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Mike just smiles all the time.
He's
just a smiling guy. What's happening down in the chat box? Is this you telling me shut up, Chris?
Not me.
No. Oh, no. Lol. Okay.
You said, yeah, I said LOL.
Right. Anything else you want me to tell you about? Why I look like this? This is COVID.
It's looking good. It looks good.
Yeah, I'm really only 37, you know.
Yeah. Training in different areas. Key components of the training.
Okay, from my perspective?
Probably.
Okay, so I guess the key components of the training that I deliver are all about, let's put it in really basic, simple terms, stopping the blood from coming out, keeping the oxygen going in. Really, that's basically what keeps people alive. You know, we take it down to a deeper level of detail, of course, but that's the basics. And so I go out there into the bush, often sitting in the dirt, surrounded by a bunch of guys whose language is certainly not, their first language is certainly not English. It's probably about their third language. And we get these medical concepts across to them, often by drawing things. I usually carry a couple of laminated sheets of paper, take some whiteboard markers or what a dry eraser markers, I think you guys call them, or something like that, and do some really basic drawings. I have several, I would refer to them as task trainers. So one to teach people how to use an arterial tourniquet, another one to teach people how to pack a wound. So if you can't stop the bleeding with a tourniquet, you may have to pack the wound, and that's it's a skill you have to learn on how to do it. So we take those pieces of equipment out into the bush. We sit in the dirt with the rangers and do it for real. We put tourniquets on each other. I show them that it's got to be tight. It's got to stop the bleeding. So it's got to be real tight. If it doesn't hurt, it's not working, and all that sort of stuff. So it's the practical aspects. We talk about the trauma triad, which is without getting too complicated, it's about acid buildup in your body and hypothermia, you're getting cold, and of course, the loss of blood volume. So they're the sorts of things that kill people. So I talk about how they can address those problems in the field, and how to use the equipment that we donate to do that. I bet that's basically. So the big challenge for me is, talking to a bunch of guys who, may or may not speak English very well, but, we usually pantomime it across, or we draw it, or we demonstrate it. Some of the training I do includes a thing called moulage, which is casualty simulation. So like special effects makeup, but instead of for movies, it's teaching medics. So that's always a good way to convey a concept of, here's somebody bleeding all over the place. I can make it look like somebody is bleeding all over the place, and how we're going to put a bandage on it, or how we're going to put a tourniquet to stop that bleeding, or something like that. So that's the sort of stuff I do out in the bush.
But there are also like legit scenarios you do too, because I've followed you enough where you remember those one trainers you would simulate an animal attack, and they're legitimate scenarios. When those rangers came up, they're like, oh my gosh, we have to address the wound, and you were like, stop, what caused this wound? And then you were like, it's a leopard. Who looked for the leopard? And they're like, oh yeah, the leopard. And exact same, so that scenario, and then you also did the gunshot simulation, because those rangers were more bound to run into like a Zululand where we actually emulated where the chance that they might actually run into an armed poacher. You guys did gunshot simulation versus the animal simulation, and the exact same scenario. You're like, stop, he got shot. Where did he get shot at? And they're like, oh yeah. And so your training is really practical, and you're a fantastic teacher. If a lemming like me can understand some of the big words you put, it's I can only imagine the other rangers must absorb it like a sponge.
Yeah, so that's why I try and draw things and pantomime things as much, because doctory words frighten everybody. Doesn't matter where you're from. I think as soon as you start getting talked at like that, it's like, oh no.
Yeah. Anything with more than 3 syllables, it's right for me.
Yeah. So it's I guess complex concepts taught in a understandable manner in a rudimentary situation, perhaps, is a way of describing what we're doing out there.
Yeah.
I think the casualty simulation stuff is useful. I think it's a nice adjunct to the training. People learn from seeing and watching someone do something. So having that visual stimulation is, I think, valuable. And I know it's realistic enough, but it's not Hollywood quality, because I'm doing it in the dirt, in the bush, but it's realistic enough. For example, I had Marty out in the field with me. I used him as the casualty, did him up, and he's lying there in the dirt. He says, Chris, look up, and there's 2 vultures circling around him. So I figure if it fools the vultures, it's good enough for a few rangers, hey?
Yeah. Plus, it's incredibly immersive. That's the best way to teach too, is to run those situations, and they're really fun to take photos of. Yeah,
that's good, and makes a bit of fun too. Everybody likes a bit of drama.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I could sit there and talk to people all day, and that'll be like this, But if you get them out in the dirt with blood flying everywhere, everybody's happy,
Yeah. Yeah, Mike was saying,
especially when the blood's zesty, mint flavored.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mike was saying that you scared Megan at Zululand. Did you really?
Nah, what? How?
Because you done up her husband, the big bloke. He was her husband.
Yeah. He was the wounded casualty. Yeah, shot.
Did I tell you? Yeah, I tell you I ran into him the other day, or the last time I was there with Weston. And we were eating at I forget the place, the restaurant, and he didn't remember me because I just met him casually. Hey, the last time I saw you were shot. He goes, huh? And I was like, yeah, Chris had done up a gunshot wound. You were shot. And he goes, oh yeah. That's a good one.
That was the same wound that that I put on him. That was used for training. Their pet baby warthog thought it was fantastic. And licked it clean because she liked the zesty mint flavored blood.
Yeah, that'd have been the highlight of your trip when you got to feed that baby. Yeah,
it was kind of funny.
Explain what I was doing. At Zululand, or
say that again, mate.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just reading Mike's chat. He said, never mind. He said, Chris, you're doing great.
Oh, great. And I look good too.
You do. You look great.
COVID Chris.
You know what? I like the long hair. You're looking more like me when I used to have my long hair.
Yeah. This is the new look, mate. I don't know how it'll go out in the field. They'll look at this old hippie. They'll go, who's this old hippie?
If anything, you'll look wise. They're like, this guy's seen some stuff.
I don't like the word wise. I prefer sagacious.
Okay. Sagacious.
Sage-like.
Sure.
Not talking about the herb.
Sure.
I'm going to look at this chat because there's messages come out saying, "Shut up, Chris."
No, so far it's been pretty positive.
That's cool. Right, what next, boss? No, where is he?
You
That's
mean,
him.
yeah, so
That's him. He's up there.
He says we're having a lot of issues. Close it up, he says.
Roger that. Okay. Well, it's probably good. Listen, jokes and fun and laughter and all of that is a huge part of my life with GCF, and I love every moment of that. But seriously, the stuff GCF does is astounding. So I'm really proud to be part of it.
Yeah, that too, and like it's just, I mean, just the overwhelming like presence that GCF instructors have on the field. It's, I mean, that's I think one of the most privileging things about my role as the GCF is I get to go and be a little fly on the wall and see how you guys represent the GCF, you know, and through all walks of life, whether it be like Chris or Marty or Weston or Rox or, you know, anybody. They have such a commanding ability to improve and instruct and, you know, make everyone's job easier and better, and it's fantastic. And I couldn't imagine being with a more down to earth and more, you know, amazing organization such as the GCF. It's awesome, and I get to meet you, which is awesome.
Yeah.
you're stuck with me.
We've all changed positions.
Yeah, I was so used to going down. That was easier.
That's right, going down. What's going down?
Down under.
Look, mate, it's Mike's disappeared. We love GCF. We love Mike Veal. Do your best to whoever's out there listening. If there's anyone left, do your best to support GCF because everything they do is tippity tops. I can tell you now, the money goes right where it's needed. It's not some, you know, nonsense. You know, get the money to the guys on the field. GCF for your people will do that. So I'm really proud to be here, really proud to be a part of it. It's an honour and a pleasure to help the Rangers. It's an honour and a pleasure to be part of global conservation. Thank you, Mike Veal. There you are in that corner. Thank you, Robert. All the marvellous stuff that you do with your beautiful images and videography. Superb, mate. Thanks,
Chris.
Can you guys hear me now? I'm just curious if that even helps.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, no, Odin.
Odin.
So let's keep up the clown here. So, all right, gentlemen, we'll call it.
Dogs
there you
are humans of the world.
They really are.
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
We'll catch you all later.
Okie dokie. Bye, guys.